So hey everybody, this is the first Cerastus night that I ever built, and this is somewhat of my process. So I built it in sections, and here's one of the concept designs that I had for it. Put it together in sections so I could paint it in sections, but also decide on what pose and things of that nature I would have it in since it was my first time making it. Here I'm actually taking parts and sticking it to the top of my spray can so I can actually do some paint to it. Obviously, here's another idea, and that was more flames. Here, what I'm doing is adding some shading to the model. I've blocked out light sources and where I want light to come from. So basically, I'm just adding some shadows or shading to the model itself before I move on to the next step. But I'm also doing that in sections, so I can decide on what I like. I tend to be very, very indecisive on, hey, do I care about where the light source is coming from? And if I do I care that I have it coming from a specific angle, or, top to bottom, side to side, bottom to top, all that plays a part in when you're deciding on what you're going to do with the model anyway. But I have the tendency to change halfway through, so it's always better to block it out ahead of time and then go from there, at least in my experience. The more professional painters will definitely have a different way of doing it, but for me, this is what works. So basically adding a little bit of shading and or contrast to the other parts and where I want them to be darkened up at. But for the most part, the model has been a complete joy to build. The only downside to it is I want more weapons to change out with the model in general. And that's just because I like the aesthetics of this knight and what it could do. But for the first time building one, I can definitely say it was one of the easier builds, especially at its scale. But it was just fun, man. I would highly suggest, hey, if someone's looking for a large model to try and build, definitely go with one of these. Here's the third concept idea I have, and the idea is that the armor is actually done in pieces, almost broken, but like in the shape of scales. So it can kind of hide, think of it like scalish camouflage, so it can hide in certain areas. I have not painted the details of any of these three concepts into the final model yet, and that's mainly because I can't decide between the three which version I want to go with. So I went with the basic salamander colors, and instead of using yellow, I used gold, which is also rare for me. I like silver in general. Gold has its purpose, but I don't know. It's hard. So even if I had an army of custodies, which I will in the future, I have to get a few just to paint and get it out of my system first. But for the most part, they're going to be done in a completely different color just because. So here, what I'm doing is I'm adding some paint to the sides and just basically trying to rough up the cockpit and parts of the cockpit to make it look like it's been used and more worn and worked in. And it's one of my favorite parts of the model because of the little details that's within the cockpit, be it the pipes and valves or the dials and modules and handles that are inside of the cockpit. Also, the screen itself, I painted with Tesseract Glow on purpose. I wish Games Workshop would make some more glow in the dark paint in other colors. Please, please, please. This is no hate, I promise, but I like Tesseract Glow for a lot of things. So, like, if you look at the tops of the handles on the cockpit itself, it's glowing in that green color off the side panels that you see there on the bottom right hand side. Then further in, basically I spend more time doing the details and things on the inside of the model than the outside. The outside of the model, the reason I save it is because once I do the outside, it's done. And it's the first time that I had a large scale model where I'm not just building and painting it, but doing it in sections to see how well it goes. Because usually I put everything together and then I'll paint it as is, but it is hard to get to certain spots. And, I want to make sure that I can get everything done and be uniform, without feeling like, oh, I missed some spots because, oh, I already glued it together, so I can't get to it. So we'll just, you know, take an airbrush and spray it black, or just, dry brush it black so it doesn't show. I don't want to cut corners like that. But this was fun. I really enjoyed this. And yeah, it's like my favorite or second favorite thing to do in in this model is painting the inside of that cockpit and the surrounding area, just for the simple effects that I'm able to pull off. I'm happy with myself, although it could obviously be better. But hey, gotta start somewhere. Then further on, you'll see that I'm adding more detail and color to the pipes and valves and all this kind of stuff within the cockpit, because all it being one uniform drab black or silver color kind of doesn't make it pop. And I'm like, hey, look, this night, you know, idea is as the knight goes through battles and wins, that they get, minor upgrades. So the more upgrades they get, the better they fight. The better they fight, the more upgrades they get. So the idea in this one is that the fighter is quite quite established. So it's getting the gold and or bronze accents and things of that nature to the inside of the cockpit, and then later it'll show somewhere else. But I wanted to have actual gems and things of that nature on the outside of it, like it, you know, like it was one in battle kind of thing. But then I went away from the idea altogether, and it was stayed more with the aesthetics of, salamanders, be it dragon scales or fire or both kind of thing. So we'll see where I go with that. Later on in the video, you guys will have to excuse my voice. A little scratchy, and it's basically from doing a lot of talking for another 6 videos. But anyways, you'll see later on I actually have the clip of the model mostly put together, minus the minor accents. Most of it put together, and it's on a turntable, and you get to see that. Similar to or the same as in the previous video, but just in case, so you can actually put it together. It's actually this model that I'm doing. And it's hard to tell because this model right now is mainly like a dark silver-ish black, almost like a charcoal color. And the cockpit is getting accents, but it is the same model. This is basically just where I started from. So here I am adding contrast to inside of the cockpit for more detail and things of that nature. And it's starting to work, because my teacher saw it and was like, well, I can't say no, this is actually decent. But here, hold my drink. And I go and look and see what he's doing, and great goodness, that is motivation. So we will see where I go. So here's the model, mostly completed, minus the minor accents and missing pieces. And here it is put together. Just want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate you. See you in the next one.